Welcome to a special bonus episode of Superhero Cinema Club. Today we're going to be discussing the original Batman movie, 1966's Batman, a film spun off from the hit 60s TV show. We're also going to discuss the franchise peaks and valleys from the 80s and 90s Batman films that we focused on this season. I'm Mark Schiff, and joining me as always, it's the Aunt Harriet to my Alfred. It's Mike Carnes.
I don't know what to say. She doesn't have a single speaking line in the entire movie.
Not one line.
What do I do?
I have no idea who this character even is, why they felt the need to have her on the show. I feel like maybe it was like a 60s thing and they were like, we need some kind of maternal character so it's not just a bunch of single men running around or something. Like, I don't know. It's odd. I don't know anything about Aunt Harriet.
I've never heard of this character before, so...
Off to a great start as far as that one goes. But yeah, so, we obviously talked a little bit about Batman's perception in pop culture prior to the 90s films, and then obviously a lot of that was shaped from the 60s TV show, which was leaning heavily on camp and corniness. This was released actually after the first season of the show, just 2 months after first season, so kind of was starting to take off, and I would say it's fair to call it a cash-in. I mean, they kind of, I think, wanted to continue to capitalize off of the show's success by making a quick adaptation, which was apparently written in just 10 days. Mike, I wouldn't say this movie is essential, but it is fun for what it is, and it is a super villain team-up movie at its core. So let's start with this. Of the four villains featured in this film, you've got the Riddler, the Joker, the Penguin, and Catwoman, all four of which who were featured in this season as well. Which of the 66 villains featured in the film was your favorite?
Not only featured in this season, but that was the inspiration for Matt Reeves' The Batman. All four villains are in that movie as well, make an appearance. You look confused. Think
Interesting.
About it.
Yeah, I guess you're right.
So as far as which is my favorite, I would say it's definitely not the Joker. I feel like he's very wasted in this movie right off the bat.
He's completely wasted. He's barely in it.
He doesn't have anything to do except just laugh comically and maybe add to the punchlines a little bit, but he's not the criminal mastermind. The criminal mastermind is the Penguin by far in this movie. He's the one who's basically devising everything. I'm just going to go ahead and get my good guy out of the way because my favorite villain and my good guy is Lee Merriweather as the Catwoman. She does a great job of acting in this role. She's kind of playing two different roles if you think about it in a way. She's hiding and disguising herself as this Russian reporter trying to seduce Bruce Wayne. It's kind of a fun role for her to do. I don't know why they didn't bring in Julie Newmar, but she does a great job in the role. She was kind of my favorite just to watch, and I would say a very close second might be the Penguin because some of his lines are absolute bangers. And I wanted to give you one that I saw looking through my research here, which was at about 15 minutes in, he says, "We shall hang together, or most assuredly, we shall all hang separately," which is attributed to Benjamin Franklin when he was being accused of treason.
Oh, interesting. That was a nice line. I actually did do a little bit of research as far as why it wasn't Julie Newmar and they recast for the film. She had just had a scheduling conflict. There's also kind of some talk that she had like an injury, so wasn't like feeling just physically up to it. She did reprise her role in the second season, and then Eartha Kitt took over in the third one. So there's 3 different Catwomen in the 66 show. But yeah, it kind of had to do with that. I totally agree. She was great. I'll go ahead and give her the good guy as well.
Wow, matching good guys for once.
Yeah, I'll say that too. But as far as which villain I like the best, I'm going to go with Frank Gorshin as the Riddler. I just think that he actually comes off as the most deranged, like genuinely psychotic. It's so weird. Like the Joker at some point is like, "Riddler, you're mad." It's like the Joker should never be saying that to anyone. Right. Like he should be the apex of madness. So it really speaks to something that like the Riddler was disturbing him. He just has a great laugh. Really enjoyed Gorshin in this role.
He gave me serious Hannibal Lecter vibes too, just because of his hairstyle more than anything else. He had that slicked back receding hairline.
Totally.
I was just like, man, he looks like Anthony Hopkins a lot. So.
Yeah, good call out there. That was great.
His suit was absolutely amazing too. I thought it was very classic Riddler with all the question marks on it and everything. It looked really nice and comfortable as a suit, I think, too. And he had like the ascot coming out of the top of it. He looked amazing.
Yeah, no, and he's had fun with that over the years. He would appear on Conan O'Brien's show sometimes and just kind of leaned into it. So good for you. Let's just jump into our Tale of the Cape real briefly. This movie was released on July 30th. Unlike the other Batman movies that all came out in June, this one was July 30th, 1966, just 2 months after the first season of the Batman show. So it was directed by Leslie H. Martinson. I had assumed that he was like heavy into the Batman series, but apparently he only directed 2 episodes of the show. So he was more for this than like a legacy on the TV show. However, on the writing side of things, it was written by Lorenzo Semple Jr. Lorenzo was credited as the writer of the original Batman pilot as well as its first 4 episodes. He continued to work as a story editor on the show and actually has it developed by credit as the show. Interesting bit of information, Mike, just looking at his career. Semple also co-wrote 70s political thrillers like The Parallax View and 3 Days of the Condor, which are quite different in tone, I would say, despite, I guess, sharing a little bit of geopolitical overlap there. There is some geopolitics in this film, but
Both great
yeah.
movies, too. I'd highly recommend both of them if you haven't seen them.
Totally. Yeah. Really good films. So, not a whole lot to get into in terms of the actual production of this. Again, it was kind of a cash in because the TV show was popular. So, I think they really just wanted to keep it going. I know the studio 20th Century Fox was actually a little reluctant about the film, but they were able to get some financial backing from actually an Austin based production company where they held the film's premiere. So, somewhat on the cheap, although it was definitely more expensive than the show itself. Everything kind of about the TV show is here in the film. So let's just jump into it. I think we got to talk a little bit about the opening dedication.
Yeah.
So at the very beginning of the film, kind of a spotlight finding some text written on a wall. We wish to express our gratitude to the enemies of crime and crusaders against crime throughout the world for their inspirational example. Okay, that was all right. But let me tell you, the second one, this is what really hit me in the feels, Mike. And to the lovers of adventure, lovers of pure escapism, lovers of unadulterated entertainment, lovers of the ridiculous and the bizarre, to fun lovers everywhere, this picture is respectfully dedicated. Mike, I'm not sure if I've ever felt so seen.
It's movies for lovers, yeah.
It's
Of all
just,
kind.
I feel like that kind of summed up the whole mission of our entire show and why we love these movies to an extent. I wouldn't say as the superhero genre gets more sophisticated over the years, there's rich thematic themes that, and we always look for, a little bit more beyond just the surface level. But at the end of the day, we just like watching dudes in costumes punch people and do ridiculous stuff and have ridiculous powers. Like that's what we're here for. And it just felt nice that we got called out as being dedicated to us, Mike. That really touched me,
felt
man.
very seen from a
Really
movie
did.
that's 60 years old.
Exactly. Shout outs. So, all right. So let's get into our best action scene. First off, we got our high seas rescue. So some stuff's going down. They're going to take the Batmobile to the Batcopter. Mike, right off the bat. Okay. So let's say this. I kind of always assumed that this show was just corny. They are very much in on the joke. And I think you realize that as soon as Batman gets bit in the leg by a shark that's just kind of hugging his leg with its mouth. And then Robin tosses him the shark repellent. The shark, being repelled from the shark repellent, falls into the ocean and immediately explodes.
It sure does.
That kind of tipped me off that, like, oh, they actually know that they're being corny. It's not just a product of us looking back on it, as everything kind of looks a little corny through the prism of time.
I had no idea that they were in on it this much, that they were leaning in. They're just trying to have fun with it. They want people to have a good time watching this movie. It's silly, it's over the top, it's ridiculous. I had seen the bomb scene, the shark repellent scene. I'd seen a couple things here and there just through Instagram reels or whatever, but I had no idea that they were this much in on the joke. For me, it was the moment when right after this scene, they're Batman and Robin and the commissioner and the mayor are trying to break down what just happened and how it relates to the 4 criminals at large. And Robin's like, this happened at sea. C is for Catwoman. And then Batman's like, well, that shark definitely was pulling my leg. It must be the Joker. I was like,
Totally.
okay, here we go. I didn't
Yeah.
know that they were that much into it. So yeah, it's way over the top. It's a lot of fun.
Next action scene, very much in the same vein, the bat raid on the submarine. They get stuck to a magnetic buoy here, Mike. And the thing for me about this scene, a porpoise threw himself in front of the last missile that was going to hit him. I
A
guess my only issue
noble
was just,
sacrifice.
yeah, it just needed a little more character development for that porpoise. Like, why was he so team crime fighting? Like, I just felt like the porpoise itself was a little underwritten. I wish I had known a little bit more about why he was so
I'm
heroic.
surprised you don't know that dolphins are very highly engaged in the crime fighting community. They're very noble creatures. There's usually a story at least once a week about one that sacrifices itself very heroically.
You know what? Now that you mention it, I do remember reading something about that in the news just last week. So it's wild. Our next action scene, this is when Bruce Wayne is kidnapped by the criminals.
I want to mention too, millionaire Bruce Wayne, not billionaire. He's not there yet in the 60s.
In the 60s, he's just a mere scrub millionaire. This was pretty fun. He's there. I do actually like the idea that Bruce Wayne is like, they don't know that he's Batman. And so they're like, oh, this is a good target to kidnap. And then they're like, why isn't Batman showing up? I thought that was actually pretty clever. This fight scene's fine. It's good.
It's
Um,
fine. Their whole thing is like when Batman gets here, he's going to step on this springboard and it's going to launch him through the window and have this whole mousetrap effect. I was like, what? That's your plan? That's ridiculous.
Absolutely ridiculous. The next one we have here is the escape from Ocean Hideout. This is when Bruce Wayne gets freed from his cuffs. I like this one. This is kind of got the classic touch angles. The one thing I was like, it was kind of confusing to me was like one of the famous things about Batman is that there's all the automatopoeias that show up when they punch people. They didn't do any of those for the fight scenes until the
Yeah.
very end. Why am I not seeing some pows and zams? I guess it is kind of the equivalent of like just making the audience wait for it. At the end, they were like, "Oh, finally, we get our pows and zams."
I
But
guess that's the only thing I can think of too. I didn't see anything about the research on that, but yeah, they took their sweet time getting to those amazing graphics on screen.
this scene also features another scene of a henchman flying through a window and then exploding as soon as he hits the water, just as one does, as sharks and people do when you
It's like an Austin Powers joke at this point or something, you know?
totally. Now we got to talk about the pirates in the Batcave. So this dehydration technology is pretty amazing. I will say, like, for this to work, it is a little confusing to me. Like, wouldn't you need every single piece of the dehydrated person? Like, they're kind of a little loose with it at times. And then it's like, wouldn't he be missing an ear or a couple fingers or like some important part of his body? Like,
Or
I
a
don't know.
chromosome or something, maybe?
Yeah,
Something
I
down at a
mean,
molecular level.
they do mention to be careful with it, but it just seems like they're a little too loose with it at
I
times.
loved his line too. He's like, "Be careful, they all have mothers."
That
The
was a good
Penguin.
one. Next up is our Batcopter crash. Mike, I personally was just really relieved that there was a foam rubber factory nearby for the helicopter to crash into. He apparently just caught it out of the corner of his eye. Yeah, that was great.
It was very fortunate that that was nearby for that.
Next up, the United World Security Council showdown. Now, it's not the United Nations. It's the United World Security Council, very different from the United Nations. Yeah, this one was a little weird to me because I was like, the Penguin is gassing all the cops, but then he just like kind of walks through it. But then he tells the other villains, "Oh wait, you got to hold your breath." So apparently he just
Yeah,
holds his breath when he goes through it. I thought maybe for a second he was immune to the gas, but
it would make sense. Just hold your breath when there's gas. That's that's all I got to do.
as one does. This one was also a little confusing to me because it's like they're all arguing in the room
Hmm.
and then they start dehydrating people, but no one at any moment is like, "Oh my God, people being dehydrated." They're so focused on yelling, they don't
Not
even
a,
notice the person next to them being dehydrated.
and none
That
of
was a
them
little
who come
odd.
back from being dehydrated are like, "Whoa, that was crazy. What just happened to me?" You know,
Totally, it's
they're just
crazy.
they just roll with it.
Yeah, also confused why these guys' remains when they're dehydrated are colored, but the pirates were all gray.
Color brings morality, I think, is something like that. If you're going to be a world leader, you have to have a certain sense of morality, and those pirates had no morals. I'm gonna go with that.
I like it. Next action scene: the high seas miss Isle. Get it? Because it
Very
misses.
good.
That was pretty good. All right, this gives us an opportunity to talk about the bat boat. I was into it. I like the bat boat. I thought it looked pretty cool. It's definitely a boat going across water, which you love to see. And yeah, that's really all I've got to say about the bat boat. But
It's good toy marketing again. It was very
there you go.
toyetic.
In our last action scene, the rumble on the poop deck.
Ugh.
Thank you for that. Appreciate it, buddy. This is where we finally get our automatopoeias. I'm going to go ahead and call it here. This is my favorite action scene. There's some decent fight choreography. There's some wide shots of everybody rumbling and brawling together in the wide angle. I like how Batman is like holding the cat for half the fight and like has to kind of still do stuff as Superman would later do with the baby in the most recent movie. Holding
That's
stuff
right.
and
Yeah.
also fighting is always a good sign for a superhero. And of course, the sort of the ending of the scene where he discovers that his loved Miss Kitka is actually Catwoman. There's like a choral
World's greatest
version of
detective, everybody.
a choral version of "I Can't Help But Falling in Love with You" comes on, and it like a slow zoom in, and he just that was actually maybe the best joke for me in the movie. I mean, it definitely made me laugh. Holy heartbreak, Batman! I was into it.
A lot of holy jokes. Man, Mark, I've watched this movie almost two times. Let's say maybe 1 3/4 times. And I read the Wikipedia synopsis of the plot. I don't think, gun to the head, I could recount what happened in this movie as accurately as you did. I completely forgot about multiple scenes. You're going through and describing everything that's happening. And I was like, oh, yeah, I kind of have a recollection about that. I swear I was not six cocktails deep like I was for Batman and Robin watching this one. I just don't think I have any idea what actually happened in the scene, how one scene relates to another. This is really hard for me to pick a favorite scene just because I'm still completely baffled by this movie.
Yeah, it doesn't map neatly onto our normal sort of framework that we use. We kind of picked obviously our categories because all these superhero films sort of fall into those rubrics. This one is obviously based on a TV show. It was a bit of a stretch. I probably too much of a stretch to go through all of these. Yeah, I don't know. You don't have to pick one, honestly.
Well, I'll just say the action scene that I had the most fun with was some days you just can't get rid of a bomb. There's a lot of good gags in there. This
Yeah, that
bomb
was
has
pretty
a
funny.
ridiculously long fuse. He's just running from one side to the other. He looks hilarious while you're doing it. It even spawned a joke in the Lego Batman video games where if you hit a certain button, he'll pull out one of those giant bombs and just run around over his head, like holding it.
Oh, that's funny.
Yeah, they creators of that game had love for this scene in this movie, I think. So that's my
Yeah,
favorite scene,
let's
favorite
go.
action scene.
Just a couple non-action scenes let's hit real quick. You kind of mentioned it earlier, but the Bat press conference at the beginning with Commissioner Gordon, and then like the chief of police, Chief O'Hara, which
That's
I
right.
was like, oh, there's a police chief and the commissioner. Like they're really like that was one thing I noticed about this film is it's very obsessed with reinforcing law and order norms.
Oh,
And that
Batman and Robin
scene
are fully deputized agents of the law.
I was about to say, they clarify specifically that, like, no, they are actually part of us. They don't operate beyond the law, which then at that point, I'm like, why aren't you just a cop? Why are you hiding everything? I do understand that Bruce Wayne's personal wealth gives him access to such cool gadgets and all that stuff. So maybe that's the reason why, like, it wouldn't be appropriate for him to bring in his own helicopter, be like, I got a helicopter, I've got all these things because I'm rich. But yeah, it's just interesting that it's like I think because of the censorship at the time, and also I think as well, this is something I honestly hadn't considered, but reading a little bit more about this, and mentioned that this was actually pretty contemporaneous for what the Batman comics were like in the 60s. He wasn't this brooding figure that we kind of associate now, that the way he was written initially in his run was more of a campy, funny figure. Not funny necessarily. I
Yeah,
think they kind of took those liberties, but just again, all the different bat puns, the different bat gadgets and bat prefixes to everything. Really what was actually in line with what the comics were like at the time.
shark repellent, bat spray. Yeah, in that the golden age of comics, all comics from that age: Superman, Batman, X-Men, Spider-Man. No matter what, every single sentence ends in an exclamation mark because everything is exciting and fun and adventurous, and
Hmm.
you want to feel that when you're reading dialogue. And this, I think, the script for this movie probably ends in an exclamation mark with every sentence as well.
Totally.
If I had to guess.
I want to talk briefly about Bruce Wayne and Miss Kitka's date night. I will say this. I honestly had no idea that Miss Kitka was Catwoman. I think that was like one of the best disguises. Like, I'm not blaming Bruce Wayne at all for not seeing that was, Catwoman. I mean, it was really like
It took
she
me a
played
minute.
it really well, totally. I just also thought this was like a really bizarre scene in a lot of ways. He's having this like vivid dream that's approaching a climax. I mean, it's all this double entendre that almost like feels grosser and dirtier than just being like, I'd love to. Very weird. And then Robin is very demure about it, like, oh, we got to turn off the cameras now and let Bruce have some boning
Well, that's the
or
thing. They have cameras in the horse-drawn carriage and in the hotel room where he takes her back to. How do they already have cameras set up there that they can watch this?
very
And
good
why are
point.
you watching this? You don't need to watch this on camera.
Totally good point. Yeah. I also thought it was kind of weird that every one of us that's wooed a woman has recited a poem to her at some point to help in the courtship process. That's just what men do. But he cites Edgar Allan Poe. Shouldn't you be going with Shakespeare or, maybe like an English, one of those guys? But instead you're going with Edgar Allan Poe. Like, okay.
I want to read you the note that I wrote down for this. Nothing gets me hotter than some Edgar Allan Poe.
Seriously. I mean, that's kind of a thing in my bedroom, but like I didn't realize it was as widespread as what's going on out in the rest of the world. So, and the last thing I think we got to kind of talk about a little bit is the bat science at the end. The ship's captain comes out, trips, spills all the containers, mixing up all of the world leaders. Clearly, as one does, you're going to need to re-separate all of those. But I guess my question was like, do you really think the entire world would trust that to Batman and Robin as the people to be the ones to like do that? Wouldn't everybody in the world ostensibly should have a say in who's actually unmerging this dehydrated bodies? It's just kind of crazy to me that like it goes all the way up to the president. He's down for them to do it. I don't know. I just think that there would be some doubt about their ability.
I just realized this is why they're color coded. Makes it much easier and simpler to divide out all the different dust.
Yeah, that makes
So
sense.
sure,
But
yeah, I trust Batman to do that. If it's all we're doing is just by color, yeah, he can do that.
fair enough. All right, well let's get into our categories real quick. We both talked about our good guy of the film. Tell us about the bad guy, your least favorite supporting character.
Oh man, here we go. My bad guy is Burt Ward as Robin. And the scene specifically, we talked about it where they're stuck to the buoy. He just yells. He's like, "Oh my God, we're stuck here!" Like his acting performance is so bad throughout the whole movie. He's easily the worst actor, I think, in this movie.
That's a little harsh.
I'm sorry. I mean, he's very lovable. He has a lot of funny lines. C for Catwoman specifically comes to my mind. But yeah, his delivery throughout probably half the movie is just not good.
Fair enough. I'm going to give mine out collectively to those bureaucrats we were just discussing. I mean, they're all kind of embarrassing caricatures of their nations, just yelling at each other constantly. Just really didn't enjoy the sort of ethnic humor there. Borderline racism at the end, where they're like,
For sure.
we've got to add in like sushi for the Japanese guy and a plate of spaghetti for the Italian dude. Like, whoa. They didn't say that, but they were implying they needed some secret ethnic ingredients. I'm just like, ah, it's making me cringe a little bit. That was some of the dated stuff. So I'm going to just collectively give it to the bad guys.
Okay.
Let's talk briefly about costumes, vehicles, and gadgets. I never really looked that closely at the Batman suit from this era. I kind of dig it. I actually think it looks pretty cool. I like the eyebrows kind of penciled on there.
Yeah, you do.
And I will say this too. I would not necessarily be immediately like, oh, that's Bruce Wayne. I think it actually disguises him very well. Robin is like pretty much right away dead giveaway. You see his hair, you're just gonna nail that it's Robin. With that being said, Adam West's speaking voice is so distinct, no matter what, you would probably immediately know as soon as you heard a radio interview. That was a horrible Adam West. I'm sorry. That was really bad.
No, that's okay. It's very Shatner-esque, his delivery, and he does nothing to hide his voice. So you're absolutely right. If you just heard him speaking, you'd be like, oh, that's Batman's voice.
Vehicles are pretty cool in this. I like the Batcopter especially. I thought that was pretty neat. Apparently, reading a little bit, they introduced the Batcycle, Batcopter, and Batboat in this film. They had not been on the first season of the show. Okay. Only the Batcycle made it back to the TV show, although occasionally they did use the Batboat, but it was just the footage from this movie that they recycled into the show. And there are a million gadgets. I think the shark repellent is probably the bat shark repellent.
The shark repellent bat spray.
There we go. Nice. Got to be the number one.
There's like 4 different sprays that they have there housed in the copter too, ready for any crazy animal situation, I guess.
Totally. Death Toll. All right. So the 5 pirates. I will say this, their death is treated with absolute gravitas by them that like, oh no, like he used the hard water and they instantly disappear. And
Yeah.
Batman and Robin are both extremely busted up by it and even reference it later as to like the perils of science and how important life is here. So I guess as someone who was vehemently anti Batman killing in Batman Returns, you must have appreciated that, right, Mike?
It was nice to see some respect for basic human life. Yeah, I enjoyed that.
We already talked a little about secret identities, but I got to throw the third one in there. Alfred, when he's with Robin in the car,
Oh my God.
he's just in the Alfred outfit, but
Put
with
a
a
mask
mask
on.
on.
Yeah.
It's like, what are we doing here? You're immediately giving away Robin's identity because you would just be like, isn't that Bruce Wayne's? But wait a minute, like that makes it all make sense now. Like you got to step up your outfit game, Alfred, if you're going to go out on crime fighting. It was disappointing.
I want to go back
That,
to the different gadgets and vehicles and everything for a second. Did you notice every single bat symbol in this movie is a different design?
I didn't. No, the
The
branding is not
Batcopter,
consistent. Huh.
it's not at all. It's different from the Batmobile. It's different from what's on his suit. It's different from everything. I didn't understand that. Why not have consistent branding, Bruce, right?
You'd think so. Yeah, it's definitely not an issue in the future. I guess we didn't talk enough about it. The Batmobile is really sick. That's a really sick car. Reading about it, there was an older car that they kind of made some custom fabrications to for it. But I really like this Batmobile, honestly.
Yeah, it's an amazing looking vehicle. I would drive that today for sure if I had
Yeah,
the
the
opportunity
fins.
to.
Totally. I just like the red piping too. I like that it's kind of red. The colors just look great. It really pops. Now it's time for our favorite section of the show. I've got questions.
I want to ask you a bunch of questions, and I want to have them answered immediately.
Questions. Questions that need answering.
Too many questions. There's too many questions. There's just too many. Yeah. I'll ask the questions.
Mike, I've a lot of questions. We're not going to go through everything, but I guess my first one I do just kind of want to bring up is like the Navy sells a submarine to an individual person without like looking him up. He doesn't even have an address.
Batman chastises him for that. He's like, "What are you doing?"
Exactly. I kind of feel like this movie's in love with law enforcement, but sort of hates the military. I don't know what your thoughts are there, but big questions on that one.
My first question was as they're in the Batcopter flying over the city, everybody's looking at them and waving at them, and they're like, "Hooray! The heroes are here!" Including a bikini party on top of a commercial industrial building or something like that. Like, who has a bikini party up there?
I actually thought that's where they were going and that they were trying to like flag him down, like come here because there's some kind of crime going on. But yeah, you're totally right. It's just like a bikini party on like a helicopter landing pad on the top of a building.
Yep.
Apparently Jack LaLanne, the weightlifting legend, was in that scene or in one of the scenes in the movie. He has a brief cameo. I did see
wow.
that.
Okay.
Yeah, so good for you, Jack LaLanne. This one's real straightforward, Mike. How do you change clothes while sliding down a pole?
Oh man, you took it out of my mouth. That was my next one.
Can you just explain that to me? How do you slide down a pole? I understand changing into clothes in a sudden fashion, but I'm actually curious about the logistics of your legs are wrapped around the pole, your arms. Like, how do you get your arms off the pole? It doesn't really make sense from a physics standpoint to me.
I'm just picturing some kind of cartoon situation where like giant claws come out as they're sliding down and like hold pants for them. And
that's totally it. That's gotta be it. I love it. You've solved the mystery here. All right, what's your next one?
Well, I think we got to go back to who runs the fabricating business in Gotham City again, because even the villains have like giant umbrellas that they ride and can fly around.
Totally. I was like, is this like a witch thing? Kind of turning an object like that into something that can fly is probably supernatural in its source.
Very strange.
Yeah.
Maybe this is just because I, again, am totally confounded by the plot structure of this movie, but whatever happened to this disappearing yacht at the beginning of the movie, does that get resolved?
Yeah, that's a good point. Was it ever even there? Because I know the captain was kind of being held hostage or just trying to read his book because he comes out at the end and stumbles the dust everywhere. But yeah, it's a great question. I don't know. The last one for me, this is the biggest one by far. Why do all the supervillains put on masks? When they go into the United Nations, they all put on masks, including the Penguin.
Yep.
They all have masks. We know it's you. It's not like the cops are going to be like, oh, who is that person with the green hair and white face? And they're
Yeah.
like, oh my God, it's the Joker. Like, they put on masks, Mike. Make it make sense to me.
I don't know. Just to reinforce that they're criminals, I guess. Something like that.
Wild stuff. In spite of this film's silliness that we've discussed, I do think it has some really profound and deep themes. That's where we tell you what it's all about. And really what it's all about, Mike, is that while Batman and Robin can assist in crime fighting and stopping the bad guys, they are not social engineers. They explicitly stay out of mixing of international geopolitics. Robin calls it out. It's like, maybe we could do a couple tweaks here to make the world a more safe place. No, it's not Batman and Robin's place to try to become godlike figures who are reestablishing society in ways that maybe in their minds are better. They simply stop the bad guys. That's their role. I thought that was kind of a profound and heavy theme here in this film.
I'll take it. I think if you were to try and pull anything out of the subtext of this movie, that's a good place to start.
It was deep. Really hit me, man. I've been thinking about it for days, bro. All right, now it's time for our final verdict on this film. Mike, you want to kick us off?
Yeah, this definitely qualifies in what we've talked about before, where a bad movie can be qualified as bad, but it can also be a lot of fun. You can, watch it with friends. You could play drinking games with it, whatever you want. I am going to give it bad, but I'm going to give it a loving bad, in that it hits that mark of you can still have fun with it. I laughed pretty genuinely multiple times in this movie. I still had fun with it, but as a movie, I can't even describe what happened in this movie. I don't know. It's like,
that's a fair point. It's long. It's way too long. I mean, it's like, I just found myself by the end being like, okay, let's wrap it up. Not a good sign for a movie. But for me, this is actually like meets the exact definition of it's okay. Because if you're into Batman 66, you're probably going to enjoy yourself. If you're not, you really don't need to see this movie at all. Like we said, some of the jokes work, some of them are corny, bad parts in the bad sense that you're referring to. You could definitely make fun of it that way. We talked about bad movies this season. We're going to talk a little bit more about them in the next segment. This is not bad like those movies are. It's bad in the sense of, it's corny and cheesy, but it's not a bad movie. It's just kind of bad, So for me, it's like, it's okay. All right, now we're going to do our recommendations. Mike, why don't you kick us off with your comic recommendation?
Yeah. So because Joker was kind of wasted in this movie, as we said, he doesn't have a lot to do. I'm going to give a comic recommendation where Joker has a lot to do. And in fact, multiple Jokers have a lot to do. And it's called Batman 3 Jokers, written by Jeff Johns, who is one of the great legends in the comic book pantheon. And 3 Jokers is a very interesting premise. It's basically Batman figures out that throughout all the famous Joker incidents, the Red Hood or shooting Barbara Gordon or, doing all these different iconic things, it actually was different people all disguised as the Joker. And they all worked together to throw Batman off the trail of him kind of tracking down one person. It's actually 3. And kind of a tantalizing premise. It's something that piques your interest when you hear about that. So came out in 2020. You can find it on Amazon for pretty cheap. I think I got it for $10. So if you're interested in finding out more about why there are 3 Jokers, I would recommend checking it out.
Yeah, great suggestion. I think you lent me your copy, and it was really fun read. And the art's really good as well. I really like the art. Yeah, and it is a very interesting idea and really like kind of plays on the canon of the character throughout the years. And you really would be like, oh yeah, it really does kind of make sense that there's been multiple iterations of this character and that they would actually have separate identities. Yeah, it was a really fun read. Good call. For my recommendation, I'm going to go for a film recommendation. And this was actually a little bit shocking to me because he's so different in this movie that I did not even realize who it was. But I'm going to recommend Burgess Meredith, who played the Penguin in the Rocky series as Mickey, his trainer. Rocky's trainer. Credit to you, Burgess Meredith, because I know you were older at that point, but these are completely different characters. I had no idea that was the same actor. Had an Academy Award nomination for his role as Mickey. Pretty iconic character in film history. I don't need to sell you on the idea of Rocky. Like, if you're in, you're in. But yeah, I'm just going to go with that because just truly astonishing to me that this is the same guy that played the Penguin. Kind of blew my mind.
He's also in a very iconic episode of The Twilight Zone. The guy who is a bookworm. He loves to read so much where it affects his work and his marriage and everything. He reads too much. And then the world kind of ends and he's the only one left alive. And he's like, well, at least I've got my books and can spend the rest of my days reading. And then his glasses break.
Yeah,
that's
totally.
him. So
Yeah.
he's in that iconic episode.
Yeah, very iconic career. What's your film recommendation?
So Cesar Romero, the Latin from Manhattan, has had a long career in movies in Hollywood. And one of his earliest roles is a movie that I just watched a few weeks ago, coincidentally, called The Thin Man from 1934. This is a pretty famous movie when it comes to older movies. It was nominated for 4 Academy Awards, including Best Picture, Best Actor in a Leading Role, and Best Director. His performance is kind of a bit part, but it is significant to the plot of the movie, which is basically that a husband and wife team are trying to solve a murder mystery. It's a comedy. There's a lot of drinking in this movie. It's like every scene features the lead role, William Powell, with a cocktail in his hand in some fashion. He's pretty drunk throughout the entire movie. It's really hilarious. And there's a great dog performance. I think he's a schnauzer. He's pretty cute and intelligent. And it's a really good time. It's a fun time. It's a fun movie. It's very witty. Cesar Romero is, again, you see that mustache right away. You're like, there he is. Even back then, 30 years prior to the Joker painting over his mustache.
I know.
you can still see it. Yeah, I know. He just refused. He didn't want to get rid of it.
Yeah, fair enough. I'm like, is this like painted over here? But yeah, I've been meaning to watch The Thin Man for a long time. So now that you recommend it, I'll definitely check it out. That's a great call out. All right. And so this being our season finale, hard to believe we're already here, Mike, but we're going to go through now and talk about our franchise peaks and valleys. So basically the way we do this is we're not just accounting for the Batman films, the 5 that we discussed during this season of the 80s and 90s run, but we're looking at all Batman films and then what characters, different things are the best of all Batman films and the worst. So that's the franchise peaks and valleys. That's how it works. I'll kick us off with my own franchise peaks. And I think this one is really obvious. We discussed it in the opening episode. The Batman score is the best of all Batman scores. And as we said in the first episode, I think it's the best superhero score of all time. I mean, it's just such an iconic theme. Danny Elfman's work, especially at this kind of early stage of his career, really established him as the go-to guy in comic book movies. I mean, you got to agree there, right?
Yeah. Like I said, I think it was the first episode. Batman has multiple iconic scores. And I think depending on your age range, you may have a different score that pops in your mind when someone says Batman, but it's got to be the Danny Elfman theme is the most iconic one. It spawned the Batman animated series theme, which is derivative of that. And it's just one of the great film scores of all time.
Amen. And here's kind of a corollary to that. Best Batman soundtrack. That award's going to the Batman Forever soundtrack with the iconic Kiss from a Rose from Seal, Hold Me, Thrill Me, Kiss Me, Kill Me from U2, a couple other bangers, the Method Man, Riddler song on there. It's a really solid soundtrack. I do like it more than the Prince soundtrack, as much as I love Prince and Party Man. I'm going to give the hat to Batman Forever as the best Batman soundtrack.
Wow, you actually said something good about Batman Forever. I'm shocked.
Won't be the last one, actually. I've got one more in there. Production design, it's a tie for the first 2 in terms of production design. I just think this is the best looking Gotham City that we've seen. I think it kind of establishes what we imagine Gotham City looks like in the mind's eye. I mean, they won Best Production Design Oscar in the first film. Shockingly, weren't nominated in the second one, but I can't really pick one. As we discussed, they say kind of the first movie is like if the west side of Gotham, the second movie is kind of the east side. But yeah, I think this is the peak of all production design in Batman films.
I disagree. I think Batman Begins is my favorite production design. The Batcave that they built had a working waterfall in it on that soundstage. I think it is the best Batsuit. We'll talk about it more once we get to the Christopher Nolan trilogy, but just all the costumes and all the sets are just so unbelievably articulate and frankly fantastic when it comes to film production design. So I think I'm going to go with that, but we'll come back to that later once we get to those movies.
Next up for me is the original Batmobile is the best Batmobile. I went even a step further and said it's my favorite vehicle in the history of movies. Again, I think you disagree. It's not yours. You don't have to reveal which one you think is your favorite. But for me, this is hands down the original Batmobile is the iconic Batmobile.
It's so hard to argue. I mean, it's such a great vehicle. It's so amazing. The design is really indicative of the character. It so perfectly fits what they're doing in that movie. I feel like I have to give it like a three-way tie between this or the Tumblr from Batman Begins, or the animated series version, which is iconic in its own way too. I just love the design of that one. So I can't pick one. I can't do it.
Yeah, that's fair. I'm leaving out animated series stuff in my best ofs just because it's just hard to kind of one-to-one those.
Yeah.
I know in our episode, we talked to the Robson brothers and they had strong feelings about a lot of those being the definitive versions for them. But live action is just hard to kind of compare to animation. But yeah, I love that Batmobile. Now, I think it's time to talk about some of the characters and the best versions of them. Now, we got to start at the top. Michael Keaton, is he the best Batman? Oh, going into this season, I probably would have said yes, just because of how important his take on the character was, not just for me as a young man, but also just reestablishing the iconography of Batman as a more serious character. I can't quite get there though. I think in hindsight,
wow.
I think there's an obvious pick, and I think you could probably figure out who that is. We'll save it for when we get there, but he's just not quite there. He's really close, but I think there is one better take.
I agree.
Batman.
He's second place, and you could probably figure it out just by the way we're talking. So I'm going to go ahead and say it. For me, it's Christian Bale. He's the best Batman. He's not only the best Batman, he's the best Bruce Wayne. He has that perfect hairstyle. He looks amazing in all the millionaire suits that he's wearing. Like, he's the best Batman by far. He disguises his voice the best. He's the most range between his characters of Bruce Wayne and Batman. So that's what I'm going for mine.
There is one best, though, in Wayne Manor. That would be Alfred. I love Michael Caine's take on the character, and I think he's such a good character in those films, such an important character in those films. I gave like 3 of my best guys of the Good Guy Awards to Alfred throughout. I just think he's the glue that really actually connects these films, honestly, because it's sort of a reboot about halfway through, and really the only characters that are kind of carrying over are Commissioner Gordon, who has very little to do in these movies. Definitely not the best Commissioner Gordon. It's Alfred. I just love Michael Goff's performance in these films. I love the humor that he brings. So this is my best Alfred. I'm not sure if you're going to agree with me on this.
I'm going to agree. He's kind of the shining light in even the worst parts of the franchise. George Clooney may be terrible. Chris O'Donnell may be terrible. Those movies may be terrible, but he is still good in them at what he's doing because he knows the assignment. He does it well. He fits the role extremely well as the grandfatherly, loving mentor figure. It may be the best version. I'm going to go ahead and give it to him as well.
Let's go. Love to hear it. Now let's talk about the villains. This is a tough one. Joker, Nicholson, iconic, just so iconic. Really, again, reestablishes him as an absolute psycho. None of the Cesar Romero goofy laughing and silliness. He's just a stone cold, shoots his best friend impulsively because he's just upset about Batman stealing his balloons. Absolutely, completely amoral. I can't quite get there, though. I just can't. I think there's one better take on this character. And again, it's really not hard to infer who I'll be referring to, but it's close. It's really close, but he's not my number one. What about you?
I'm so surprised to hear you say that. I feel like someone in your age range would have absolutely given it to him, hands down.
It's almost a 1B, like it's almost a tie, but like I just think, come on. I don't need to beat around the bush. Like, Heath Ledger as the Joker is an all-time performance. He won the Academy Award. He's so incredible. You could even go with Joaquin. Joaquin's take on the character is phenomenal as well. He's such an iconic villain. We discussed it in our opening episode if you haven't listened. So, but yeah, it's not quite. It's like one tick below.
No, it's Heath Ledger. Your eyes are just absolutely glued to the screen every time he's on, and everything that he says is amazing. Every little subtle nuance to like the way that he licks his lips is kind of creepy, and the way he moves his hair, and the way he kind of shifts in his seat and everything. It's very unsettling what he's doing, and it's just one of the complete masterful and iconic performances, honestly, of the entire 21st century to date.
Now, I will say this.
Captain Hyperbole over here.
I love it. Catwoman, hands down. It's not even close. Michelle Pfeiffer as Catwoman is by far the most iconic Catwoman, who's been portrayed on screen 4 different times, actually. Yeah. So there's a lot of options here, but it's just she's so far and away the best. I even said she'd probably be on my Mount Rushmore of comic book villains of all time. I just think her character is so well written. She's empathetic, but also, also kind of has schemes, and that's kind of, I think, the perfect take of the character. It's not even a difficult one. This is the iconic Catwoman.
I give it to her by default just because I feel like we haven't really gotten the most accurate depiction of Catwoman on screen in my mind, but she's definitely the best of the four that have been on screen. So yeah, I'm going to agree with you. It's Michelle Pfeiffer.
The next one was equally, well, not maybe equally tough just because the Joker's so iconic, but Penguin is a difficult one, right? Because we talked about it. It's somehow unbelievably to me. Danny DeVito was nominated for a Razzie. I think he's amazing, actually. He's so gross and disgusting. It is definitely a total reinvention of the character. Like when you watch Burgess Meredith, totally different scheme. But again, I'm gonna not go with it. Just because, again, spoiler alert, Colin Farrell is just unbelievable in his role. And you've got the TV show to support it as well. The transformation with the prosthetics, both had a lot of prosthetics, but Colin Farrell is utterly unrecognizable. You would not even know it's him. I got to give it to Farrell, but it's close.
Having the TV show really helps too, because it built a lot of layers and depth to that character, which makes him way more interesting than what Danny DeVito had to do with 2 hours of screen time. But I think had the TV show not been there, I probably would give it to Danny DeVito. Yeah, I'm with you. It's Colin Farrell as the Penguin.
Two-Face and the Riddler. I talked a lot of smack about Two-Face specifically. Definitely not going to get it for me, but you got to go with Aaron Eckhart here, bro. You can't. Eckhart's...
No, I think from a production design standpoint, yes, he is the best looking Two-Face if you were to do it in a realistic way. I love having the burned face, even though it may not physically be what happened. His eyeball would probably fall out of his socket within like the first 6 hours or something like that. It doesn't really work from a medical standpoint. I know we said you wanted to kind of distinguish between the animated stuff, but it's the animated Harvey Dent is the best. It's the most iconic one for me. I think it's the most interesting. It makes the most sense to have his turn from Harvey Dent into Two-Face, to have that switch that gets flipped. Like, it doesn't really make a lot of sense in Dark Knight. It's like, okay, you're grieving, but that's no excuse for you to completely turn the corner and hold a gun to a small child's head. It just doesn't quite work for me, but we'll talk about that more when we get to Dark Knight. So for now, I'm just gonna wrap it up and say that the animated Two-Face is the best Two-Face.
The Riddler is a tough one because we talked a lot about Jim Carreying. It's great. The only other version in live action that we've had is obviously Paul Dano. I got to go with Dano almost by default. I don't necessarily love that character in that film. I have complicated feelings we'll talk about in season 20 of our show. I think Dano is better. So this is not the definitive Riddler for me.
I give it to Carrie.
Okay.
I'm going to go the opposite way. I'm going to go the opposite way. Like I said, he was at the height of his power. Even though it's not like a comic accurate portrayal of Jim Carrey, he's still hilarious to me. And there's a lot of lines I think that just stick with me throughout my life. And he just cracks me up. I mean, I love him so much. It's got to be Jim Carrey.
Fair enough. And last but not least, Mr. Freeze and Poison Ivy. We haven't seen them in live action outside of these films. That's kind of almost an incomplete, I would say. But to your point about the animated series, we brought it up. I mean, Mr. Freeze is such an amazing villain. Maybe the best villain, arguably, in the animated series. The gap between what Schwarzenegger's doing and the character as he's written by Paul Dini in the show, it's like as wide as the Grand Canyon. I mean, it's absolutely two different things. And then Poison Ivy, it's funny because if you've watched the Harley Quinn show, really good character on that show. She kind of has a relationship with Harley Quinn. And so I would probably give that version of the character to be the best one. Okay. But it's definitely not Uma Thurman or Arnold Schwarzenegger for me on those.
I'm still going animated series on both of these characters as well. They actually do have a couple episodes in there where Harley Quinn and Poison Ivy team up, and they have a good relationship as well there. It kind of was derived from those episodes, but yeah, they're just way more interesting on the show than anything that we've seen in live action.
Now we're going to discuss the franchise valleys, the worst moments in the Batman franchise. Mike, why don't you kick us off with your lowest moments in Batman?
Well, number one is George Clooney. He's the worst Batman anything, I think. If you were to take all of the worst parts about Batman throughout the years, he is the bottom of the barrel. I'm sorry, George. I love you, but your performance here is just terrible. He doesn't try to hide his voice at all. He's constantly bobbling his head. He's just boring. He seems bored. He plays it very strangely. He's the worst Batman.
All right, so longtime listeners of our show will remember I make the bold claim in the Batman Forever episode that Val Kilmer is worse than George Clooney. I somewhat correct the record in the following episode. However, I want to be very clear here. I agree. I do think it goes to Clooney for two reasons. Number one, as you brought up, that Val Kilmer was put in kind of an impossible position given his difficult relationship with Joel Schumacher, that they weren't speaking on set. That's going to really handicap you as an actor. And I think he could have done interesting things even with the way that character was written. Second of all, George Clooney himself is like, I am the worst Batman. Like, he says that aloud. If George Clooney is going to go on record, he's giving money back to people. If you go up to him in the street and say, I need $12 back for the money I spent, he'll give it to you. Like, if Clooney himself is saying he's the worst, he's the worst. So I'll agree with you there. What's your next one?
I think it's safe to say that Joel Schumacher is probably the worst Batman director in the entire series. You know,
I think you're right.
I have a hard time picking a specific best director for the series, but I have an easy time picking the worst director, and it's him. And that's just because he took it in such a strange way. We didn't want more campiness out of this character exiting 1966 and entering the 80s, and he just took the character backwards. I know he didn't write the script, but the scripts are awful, and it is his fault that there's a lot of tension on sets and allowed for that to go on. You're the captain of the ship, man. This is your ship. You need to steer it in the right direction, and he did not do that. So I'm going to give it to him for worst director.
Yeah, similar to George Clooney. I mean, he kind of apologized for what his work specifically on Batman and Robin, but yeah, I think that's a fair assessment. It's hard to talk ill of the dead, and rest in peace to Joel Schumacher, who made plenty of great films, some of which we discussed in past episodes, but yeah, I think you're right on with that.
Between the two, maybe 2.5 versions of Robin that we get throughout the Batman career, Chris O'Donnell probably takes the cake here as the worst Robin.
Fair enough.
I said some bad things about Burt Ward's performance, but no, Chris O'Donnell's even worse than that. And the other version would be, I guess, Joseph Gordon-Levitt at the end of Dark Knight Rises, but that doesn't really count. So I'm going to give it to Chris O'Donnell just by default.
I don't think you're wrong. I definitely think his character in Batman and Robin is definitely worse than Batman Forever. But yeah, respect to Chris O'Donnell. Yeah, I think you're right on that. I got a couple just quick ones. Worst Batman love interest. Going to give it to Julie Madison, a.k.a. Elle Macpherson, Bruce Wayne's girlfriend in Batman and Robin. No chemistry. George Clooney said he was playing the character as gay. He has no interest in her whatsoever. Batman kind of actually has a surprisingly rich love history when I was thinking back over the films. Like, he always kind of has a romantic interest, or in most of the films he does. And yeah, she's definitely hands down the worst.
She doesn't serve any purpose to the film either. There's no point in having that character in there. But as you said, the Razzie for worst couple on screen that year went to Batman and Robin, though. So would Robin be a worse love interest?
Maybe if he was kind of playing him as gay. I think Robin is definitely not gay. I mean, Chase Meridian aside, that's all right, but definitely gonna have to go with the bad love stuff in Batman and Robin. Next up for me, for sure, hands down, by far, and I looked at the two Batmobiles from Batman Forever and Batman and Robin. It's Batman Forever. We talked about it. It is so ugly what they did to the Batmobile, just made it glow more. Batman and Robin, it's not good at all, but Batman Forever is definitely worse. I can't stand that Batmobile, and I feel like it's sacrilegious. Like, what they took a sick car and like made it ugly somehow. It's so disappointing to me.
I'm okay with giving it to that one. I feel like Batman and Robin is a little worse just because it's more than just like blue lights. They had in blue and red and green and all these other stupid colors that don't need to be on the Batmobile. But yeah, sure, I'm okay with giving it to that one.
Next up, you talked about there's so many iconic Batman scores over the years, but I'm sorry, Elliot Goldenthal, I know you won an Academy Award eventually, but your work on Batman Forever is absolutely terrible. Just really, really one of the worst. I just hate it so much. I do not understand why they just didn't keep the Elfman theme and just add little punctuations to it. They just redid it, and he did it in like almost like the 60s style with these horrible like trombone blasts at the end of the scenes and stuff. It's so bad. I hate that score.
I know, that one really rubbed you the wrong way.
Really did. Just really
it's like
can't
it
stand
personally
it.
offended you.
Obviously, I don't think we're talking out of class here, but the mother of them all, Mike, the worst Batman movie in the entire franchise, it's Batman and Robin. This is the nadir of the whole franchise. It's hard to imagine that they'll ever make a Batman movie as bad as this one. It's definitely possible, but I think it would be bad in a different way than this one. It's just a really, really bad movie. Now, we did distinguish. We never called any of these movies terrible. We just settled on bad for both Batman Forever and Batman and Robin. I think they both fall under bad because you can make fun of them and enjoy them in like a turn off the sound and just laugh at the preposterousness of it, have a laugh tracks thing going on with them. So they are elevated to bad because they're so bad they could kind of be entertaining. But yeah, it's just not even, there's no question. Batman and Robin is definitely the franchise nadir.
It definitely is. It's the worst Batman movie. It might be the worst superhero movie, possibly, of all time.
We'll
we may
have to
revisit that.
I was
X-Men 3
say,
might take the cake there, but
boy, we'll see. I don't know. Superman 4 was extremely rough too. Supergirl was rough. We'll have a bracket eventually where we adjudicate this, but I think it's safe to say that this is definitely the low point. That brings us to the end of our season on the 90s Batman movies. Mike, this was a lot of fun. Shout out to our boys, Alex and Will Robson, coming on and speaking with us. Definitely give their podcast a follow. They do a great, great job. I really enjoy listening to them discuss their favorite episodes of Batman the Animated Series. They have a lot of great guests on there. They give great insights. Could not recommend that podcast enough. And thank you very much to Will and Alex for appearing on our show.
Thank you so much. This has been a blast. I had so much fun. Even at the low points, at least I was laughing and having a good time. And it was fun to revisit these movies with you. And I look forward to what comes next. I don't know if we're going to say it yet.
Let's just say it. Let's talk about it.
Okay.
Next up, X-Men. We are going to be going through all of the X-Men movies. Now, we're only going to do the X-Men proper movies. We'll save the Wolverine solo movies for a separate season. But look for our biggest season yet, going all the way from 2000's X-Men all the way up to, I think it was 2020's New Mutants. A lot of highs and lows in that series as well. It's definitely some iconic performances, some iconic characters, and also just some really rough stuff. Hopefully that's what you're here for, the good and the bad. But we really appreciate you all tuning in. Thanks so much for all your support, and we will see you next season on Superhero Cinema Club.
Superhero Cinema Club is hosted by Mark Schiff and me, Mike Carnes. Produced by Mark Schiff. Editing by Mike Carnes. Original music provided by Chris Carnes. Find him on Spotify. Be sure to follow us on social media. You can find us at Superhero Cinema Club. And don't forget to like and subscribe and leave a review. Join us next time as we dive into another epic adventure from the world of superhero cinema.